Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I have my friend, fellow coach, and colleague, Angela Robeck, in the room on Zoom. Never know what to say with that one, to share her dating after divorce story. So Angela is a leadership coach for school leaders. So my understanding is principals, administrators, superintendents, all of those people. And you're the host of the Empowered Principal podcast.
Yes, I am. Yes, I love it.
Such a unique niche. Welcome. Tell us, all about yourself and what you do in your work. How did you get to be a coach for school administrators?
Yes. So, okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Angela Kelly Robeck. I am currently a certified life and leadership coach for school leaders. And I walked into that job. Well, I created it basically, but I was a school leader for 7 years before I decided to become a coach. And I got certified while I was a school leader because I signed up for coaching because the job was so hard. And at the time, this is actually going to tie in really well with my divorce and dating after divorce story, because when I became a school leader, I was single. I was a single mom. So I got married very young. I was married at the age of 22, right out of college. I married my boyfriend from college. He was 24. I was 22. We got married in our home state of Iowa. And then we moved out here to California with his job. And so I was far away from home, missing my family, trying to just establish my roots as a young person right out of college with my husband. And, those younger years, we had a really good time together. We didn't have children right away. So we were able to explore California and play and have fun. And, that was back in the 90s when the .com was doing really well. So we got to go on boondoggles and trips, and we had a really great time together. Around the 8th year of our marriage, we got pregnant. Oh, I know. We did move back to the Midwest. The company transferred us back for a year. So we moved back to the Midwest. That very weekend that we moved, we found out we were expecting. Super excited. I was in graduate school at the time, and I decided not to work while I was going to graduate school full time because I was also pregnant. Yeah. So I can remember being pregnant, and I could feel these little doubts coming up, not about the pregnancy, but about marriage. And I thought that was strange because I never had those thoughts prior. But the move back, we were living in Minnesota at the time, and the move back there, back to kind of our, hometown-ish, he was working a lot. He was traveling a lot. He was on the road a lot. And I remember thinking I felt a disconnection happening, partly because of his work and partly because my body was doing things I didn't understand or know what was going on. And I felt alone in that journey. I don't think he was blowing me off, but I did feel some kind of isolation just mentally and emotionally. So that was really the first time I remember thinking I hope this works out. I could feel it. Yeah. But of course, life is happening. Things are busy. The baby comes. And then 2 or 3 months after our son was born, we moved back to California. So we were yet again uprooted. And we came back here. Now we're a family, this little tiny family of 3, brand new baby. And he was thrilled to be back here working. But in order for us to afford a home in the Bay Area, we had this conversation and he said, we're going to need two incomes. So then I decided to go back to teaching full time. And that broke my heart. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be home with the baby, but we made that work. But I also realized something, that I thrived better as a mother when I had a profession, something professional to focus on. And those 2 years, it went from being like, I loved him. We were amazing. Everything was fine. And then when parenthood got introduced, his job was really intense. My job was intense. I was finishing up my graduate program. We had a baby. We moved into we bought our new house. And I remember looking back, boxes were like 6, 8, 10 months later after we moved in, we just didn't have the capacity to unpack, and we're juggling life. And it was just like this unseen force pulling us separate.
Yeah.
And around, probably around, 1 to 2 years into our son's life, I could see that our relationship had changed, even though we hadn't spoken about it, even though on the surface it seemed fine. There wasn't anything like wrong. There wasn't cheating, or there wasn't any infidelity. There wasn't anything like obviously wrong, but it changed.
How did you handle just like the household duties? Like, how did you talk about like who does what and who's holding the baby today? Like, who's getting up with the baby? Like, because I mean, I have teenagers. I still have conversations with my husband about like household duties. I'm like, dude, did you see that over there? And he's like, well, I took them to like their activity. So like, I cannot imagine.
Yes, it was. I think we were so young that I don't know that we had the wherewithal to like, let's sit down and let's come up with a plan, like a proactive approach. It was much more reactive. I definitely did most of the child rearing things. Like, Alex went to school, or he went to daycare near my school. So it was clearly easy for me to pick him up, and take him. And the household stuff, I think we just it got done however it got done. I don't think I was as meticulous maybe as I am now. It was just kind of survival mode, because I was also teaching full time, but I was in graduate school in addition to all of this.
Yeah.
So it
sounds like your ex-husband participated.
He had to. Like, I had class on I think it was Mondays and Thursdays, something like 2 nights a week. He definitely was parent on. He was a hands-on dad. He was very loving, a hands-on dad. So we weren't having arguments, if that makes sense. It wasn't arguments about the house or the kids or the finances. There wasn't anything there. It's just as though two people who fell in love, and life kind of consumed both of them, and it separated us to an individual level where we were both just like, whatever we have to do to survive. Yeah. And then there was just became a disconnect, just in the relationship disconnected. And he got focused on work, and I was focused on graduate school and teaching. And there was an emptiness. We were living almost like roommates at that point. And it was like a cohabitation partnership where there wasn't arguing, but both of us felt sad and lonely, and we knew something was wrong. But he's definitely, it's almost like you're in fight or flight in that point. Yeah. I'm definitely more of a fighter, right? I'm a doer, and I am more direct. He was definitely kind of flight freeze, internal, and everything was internal. So he was taking things internally. I was like talking outward to my friends, because when I talked to him, it was a no-go. Nothing went anywhere. Yeah. And there was a moment where we decided we needed help, and we signed up for counseling, like marriage counseling. And we each went to this counselor separately. So I went, and then by myself, and then he went by himself. And then she pulled us together. And that experience I'm not blaming this woman, but that the way that it was handled and the experience that we had was traumatizing. It was, I said all the things I wanted to say in confidence and privacy and honesty. And he did the same thing. And we didn't know that she was just going to put all that out on the table.
Oh, goodness.
When we didn't have the tools to know how to manage that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
and there's some things your spouse doesn't need to know that you're thinking because they're just thoughts.
Right. Right. And yeah, there wasn't life coaching way back then.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that theory was or what that approach was, but for us, it was horrible to hear my thoughts being exposed.
Yeah.
I felt bad. I was embarrassed for me and I felt horrible for him. And then you're offended. Like it just was all kinds of bad.
Oh my God. Like I've had some bad marriage counseling experiences, like in my first marriage, but this takes the cake.
Yeah. This was crazy. I was not having it. We drove in together and we sat through that. It just felt like it was just awful. And we both walked out.
The worst lack of boundaries. Like it was like every awful normal human boundary, emotional boundary was just, someone just came and tore them all down.
Completely violated. And we walked out, Sade, and I knew that moment we walked out and we drove home in silence. And I thought, we are not going to recover from this. I still have goosebumps.
I have goosebumps right now. I'm halfway in tears because the ingredients were there, but like someone just put a torch.
Yes.
To it.
And the sad thing is we really did love each other. We did want to be together and we didn't have the tools. And that experience kind of frightened us from trying another person or another. We just both went into lockdown mode emotionally. We lasted for maybe another, I can't even remember, 6 to 8 months. And then it just got so painful to be living in the same space that I ended up taking Alex back to my family just to give him a couple of weeks to move out. Yeah. And then we didn't want to divorce. We tried for 5 years.
Wow.
We did not start the divorce process for 5 years. So we had been together for just shy of 10 years. We had Alex at 8 years. We separated around 9.5 years. And then 5 more years went by before it was official. Because we could not, one didn't want to, and then the other one did. And then the other person didn't want to. And it was just kind of this, because we were now going to individual counseling and therapy, but it wasn't together. And eventually, you start to heal and you start to have different thoughts and different expectations. And you come to kind of just an acceptance and a realization that was a great chapter, but it wasn't meant to be for life. And you kind of go through that. And then we both got to a place where we just decided to be co-parenting and to love from a distance. Right.
Yeah.
And that was a great period of our co-parenting experience. He was single. I was single. We were both people were setting us up. I think back where my friends were setting me up and people were setting him up, but we did have a good relationship. While I was, transitioning into the dating conversation, I think back and I laugh because I definitely thought it was the institution of marriage that was the problem. I was like, never getting married again. That sucked. That didn't work. That felt horrible. Dating's really fun because it let me stay safe, right? I could play, I could meet people, have fun, go out, but I could keep them at arm's length. I was also a single mom, didn't want this churn of people coming in and out of my son's life, very protective of him.
And you were a principal at this point, a school leader?
Still teaching. I was still teaching at this point, but that kind of stage of dating was just like light and fun. And I met a fellow teacher who was also newly single. And so we partnered up and we had our girls' night outs. We would meet people. It was fun. It was almost like I was married during my 20s really young, but my 30s became my 20s. I was out single and dating.
Yeah. Exactly.
Having a good time, doing all the things. And then I can remember a few years into that, I was like, I'm getting tired of this scene. Like, it's kind of the same, rinse and repeat, go to the bars, meet some people, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was probably 35 at that point, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm done with this. So I kind of made a conscious decision to start being more proactive about, do I want to be in a relationship? Yes or no? If I do want to be in a relationship long-term, what does that look like? And I started doing I guess it would be personal development on it. And around that time is when I was introduced to Byron Katie's work, Martha Beck's work, who, Martha was deemed as Oprah's life coach. So I became really obsessed with personal development. And that's when I started digging in deep. Like, who am I? Who do I want to be with? What kind of person do I want to be in a new relationship? Should I choose to be in one? Because I was in a lot of like dating relationships, but not like, I wasn't ever considering them seriously as like a life partner.
Yeah.
Until I was evolving and maturing as a young woman and going into not so young woman.
Yeah. Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode. And our thoughts create things. And so if you're not thinking about partnership, you really don't, it's hard to be intentional and create it when you're not thinking about it. So even if there are cues or signs, you might miss them.
Yes, definitely. And because I believed that marriage was the problem, I wasn't looking for it because I was pushing that away. So it wasn't even on my radar. I didn't want it to be on my radar because my experience of marriage was so painful. And I felt like, and there was a part of me that was shaming and blaming myself. I should have done it differently. All of these things. I was, part of me was maybe blaming him for not being more open and communicative. And how could we not solve this problem? We're both really smart people. I felt so much pain around my son and having him experience a divorced lifestyle and marriage. That was very painful. I went to therapy for at least 3 years just around my self-concept and my self-concept as a mother, and how just learning from a very tender age that it's not our job to protect our kids from all pain, and learning that every child will have something to endure and that it was okay and it would help him grow stronger. Like I had to really, really work through that part of it as a parent, which is why I extended my single years for so long. But once I started doing that work, and I remember, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book called Committed. So she did Eat, Love. Was that her? Eat, Love,
Pray, Love. Yes.
Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
And then, so that of course was a big hit. I love that book, love the movie, all the things. And then she wrote a book after that called Committed. And it was all about, I mean, you probably know, like her marriage, divorce, and all of these things. And it resonated with me so deeply
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started thinking, wait, marriage isn't the problem.
Yeah.
And that was a whole new exploration and journey for me to unravel all of that story. And around the big, okay, let me think about this. So I met my now husband, my second husband, who is 11 years younger than me. So there's a story there, right? Like I met him. I was out with a girlfriend. Actually, I was out with a group of friends, consoling one of our friends who was engaged, and the guy broke it off and she was sad, and we were all out cheering her up. We run into another group of gentlemen who were also out having a night out. And I met my future husband. Had no idea this would be him at the time, but met him at that moment. Okay. We became friends. I actually dated his friend for a while. So we were couple friends. I was dating his friend and he met another girl, and we were couple friends for around a year. So I knew my husband, but I didn't meet him and then date him immediately. It was so eventually those two relationships broke up, but Mitch and I stayed friends. Gotcha. And we hung out platonically, talked about our woes, the breakups, what we were
doing. So just, you said platonic, like, was he platonic in his mind? Because sometimes one person is platonic in their mind, how they see it, and the other person is like,
I was platonic. And he was in the beginning. So I only know this in hindsight, but in the beginning, he played very platonic. So my perspective of him was very platonic, but he said the more time we spent together, he started developing feelings. So this went on from like September up until, and I know it's kind of a funny story, but September, we were hanging out all through the fall. And I'm going to fast forward because I love this story. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. I got set up on a blind date for New Year's Eve. He got set up on a blind date for New Year's Eve. He's up in San Francisco on this blind date with this other couple. I got set up from a friend of mine, and the person that she set me up with was playing in a band for New Year's Eve. So I was like at that event, but not with the guy because he's up on stage, whatever. So I'm just hanging out with myself and people around me having, conversation. But Mitch texted me and he said, how is my New Year's Eve sucks. How is yours going? And I said, I told him my New Year's Eve is not, I'm not having fun. And he said, we chit-chatted on text for a while. And he said, well, where are you? I said, I'm in Pacifica. Where are you? He said, I'm in San Francisco. And I'm like, this is such a drag because I didn't drive and I don't have a way home. And he said, I'll come pick you up.
What? How far was the drive?
Like probably an hour.
Wow.
So he somehow got out of his his date night and found his way to me, and he picked me up and we drove back to my place, which was another hour. And we just sat up talking all night, just like, what a bad night, and just sharing our feelings for each other. And that was when he goes, I need to tell you something. This is how I'm feeling. My feelings have evolved for you, and I really care about you. And I needed to say it tonight of all nights. And I was a little like, okay.
Now, was this because he was younger that it never
yes, it was all, I think all of it. I was like, wait a minute. It's like when someone just tells you news and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't computing. What? It didn't make sense. And I was like, okay, I was trying not to overreact, but I told him like, I so appreciate your honesty, and I'm going to need a little time to process this because I got to check in with me to see where I'm at, because my brain was like, wait a minute, this guy's super young. Why would he even be interested in me? Like, I have a kid. He's 20 something. I'm 30 something. This doesn't make any sense. This will never work. Is kind of what was driving my thought back then. So I don't remember if it was the day after or a couple of days later. At some point along in a couple of days, we went out for brunch together. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready to talk about it. And I said, I'm just like, for me, this feels brand new. And I know for you, it doesn't. So we're going to have to, if we want to even explore this, it's going to have to be from the beginning. Like, because I need to like shift my views from you're a friend and we're hanging out together to what does this look like if this were to be a dating situation? And he's like, fine. He was all in, whatever I needed. So that was number one. I was like, I loved no pressure, no rush. And I said, the friendship is such a great foundation.
Yes.
So that is what I feel like Chris and I had a great friendship too, but it was a 20-something friendship, right? Mm-hmm. This was like a mature adult friendship. And we ended up dating, and that was great, but I still kept him kind of at arm's length for a few years. It just worked. And then there was a moment where I ended up having like a surgical procedure and I needed some help at home. So I did that. He came over and helped me, and he ended up staying because I needed to be able to, I just needed assistance, physical assistance. He came and stayed, and then he just kind of never left. Like he moved in. And
he's like, I'm here now.
I'm here. And it worked. And I loved it and he loved it. And my son like knew him well enough because it had been a few years. So I felt like I could trust and entrust him with my son. And it was such a natural transition. He just moved in. We didn't have to move Alex out of the home. It was just great. So he came in, and I just said, like, let's just do this for a while. And I don't want to talk about marriage. Like, let's live together, because I didn't see the difference at the time. It was like, we're living a married lifestyle. That's fine. And it's working. Don't break it. Right.
Yeah.
And we did that for another, let's think, at least 5, 6, 7 years, something like, I know we were fully together for 9 to 10 years. And he just was so patient. He didn't need the wedding.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't need, I'm choosing not to have more kids. I'm choosing we don't have to get married. Like, I'm good with this. So we were fine for a while. And then Alex went off to college, and I actually, in hindsight, I see what was happening. I was just completely heartbroken. I was very close to my son. I still am. And I didn't realize, but I was so devastated at that perceived loss in my life. We kind of did a thing. It was kind of the perfect storm. Our son had left. I was now certified as a coach. I got certified in 2015. I was a principal when I started the principalship was, I think, in 2010. I was still single at that time, but I knew Mitch. We were friends in that year. Alex went to middle school. He started middle school. I started the principalship. I was a mess. And that's when I signed up for life coaching. I got certified through Martha Beck, but I only did it just to pull my own life together. Because it was so messy. And
like the job.
Yes.
Handling.
Yes. Well, the job happened brand new. And then Alex went to middle school, which was a big transition for him. And it didn't go well. And his dad remarried. And he remarried to a woman who she and Alex did not mesh. And there was stress in the home. And at that point, Alex was going between the two homes. So there was stress on Alex to the point that I put him in therapy because he wasn't dealing well with that transition. So there was just lots of moving parts. And Mitch was in the scene, but just as a friend at that point. So I think he knew to kind of just to be there in the background supporting.
I guess I wanted to ask about the job itself, like, because it's a big deal to go from being a teacher to a principal.
Huge.
Huge.
I was yes, I got hired in my district. So I was working at a school. They hired me to open a new school. So I was a brand new principal opening a brand new school. So there was construction issues. We had the water main broke, and there was raw sewage floating down the middle. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. So
God just chose you. He's like, I need a coach for my principal. So I'm going to take Angela and give her all of the things so she can help them.
All the hard things. And I was like, what is happening in my life right now? I couldn't see it at the time, but now I can speak to it. I've been through, I was a single mom as a principal. I opened a brand new school. I didn't have any APs. It was just me. So like all of the hardships that people now come to me for, I'd done it. I've been there. Yeah. I've worked at low income schools, high income schools. So all to say that those transitions, dating was fun until it wasn't. And then Mitch was in the background supporting me through that really hard transition, which as I started to date him for real in my mind and shift my thinking, I could see like, oh, this is a man of his word. This is a man loyal. This is a man who's patient and loving and trusting. And I was like, wait a minute. Remember when I was looking for all these things?
Yeah.
It's right in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was a matter of, I have the right person. Am I going to be the right person? And can I learn, am I willing to be vulnerable and take a risk and love again and open myself up? That took the longest time, I would say.
Wow.
Because there weren't life coaches who, like you, there weren't people out in the world, to my knowledge, who were like, hey, I can help you reopen your heart back to love and another marriage. That wasn't available. So I was juggling it on my own.
Yeah. And you had to teach you how to create that safety, like, hey, it's safe, right? Not because of an external attribute, but because you have gained the skills to keep yourself safe, to see what's safe, and then to create your own safety.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. All of that. And doing that on my own, I think if I'd had a coach, that would have been expedited by years, literally years. And I was in therapy, but that was more about just my healing from the divorce and like kind of self-identifying, not as a wife, no longer as a wife, but a life coach would have helped me get past my fear and to help me see the thoughts that were blocking me from like receiving love and being open to it again. And there was somebody in front of me for 10 years. Wow. It was just like, that was such a revelation. But it took me much longer than it would have on my own, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And that comes up a lot with my clients where it's like, you know, you're probably just 1 degree away from the person, but you won't see them until we get all of this other stuff out of the way.
Yes. That's why I feel like for the listeners out there, if you are in a situation where you've been through a divorce and you're out there dating again, it's so much more about you and concept and your thoughts about marriage and other people and who you can be and who they can be. It's so much more internal than we realize. Yeah. I think so much of in the beginning, you're just looking at all of the external and your fears of the external versus like, oh, those are just fears in here. I'm pointing to my head, inside my head. And once that key turned in my mind, then I saw it.
Yeah. So good. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Angela. Like your story is just so beautiful. Yeah. Love it so much. Now, how long have you been remarried?
So the fun part about that is, I had been a school leader for 7 years at this point. Our son went to college. Another kind of factor in was my mother had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And, you know, the school year, it was really impossible to have the flexibility to go and care for her the way that I wanted to. So I made a decision we eloped. We decided on a Monday night at 9 p.m. and we were married by like 8:30 the next morning because we didn't want the pressures of the wedding and we just didn't want any of that and all the drama and we didn't want it. We decided we were ready. We wanted it. So we eloped. We sold our suburban home and moved to our beach condo, which was a third of the size, a little tiny little place. And just started a new simple life as a couple. I mean, Alex was in college. So then it was just the two of us and we were starting fresh. It wasn't my home. It was now our home. Yeah. And it was the most magical year of my life. I loved that year. And then on our first anniversary, we had the white wedding because people were like, we waited 10 years for you to get married and you eloped on us. And we're like, oh, weddings aren't about the bride and groom. They're about the people.
Yeah.
Let's do the white wedding and make it as magical and fun as possible and have a big party and everybody, it's going to be a win-win. So we had the best time. We did it on our anniversary because I said, I don't want 2 dates to remember and all that.
Yes. So good.
We got married on a Wednesday.
So smart.
Yes. And what a way to celebrate your first anniversary with the wedding. So we had the wedding. It was perfect. I couldn't have wanted anything more. And we have now been married for 5 years. We got married in 2017. We had the wedding in 2018 and now it's 23. So we're going on actually 6
years and 16 years altogether. Sounds like.
Yes. 16 years total, 6 years married, 5 years since the big white wedding. And
I love it.
Going strong.
So good. So good. Oh my gosh. All right. We have to wrap up.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you what's your one word of advice, but you told them to it's internal. Yes. I love that. That was just so, so perfect. Can you just tell us a little bit about the before and after of your clients when they work with you, and also then where the listeners can reach out to you? If there are any school leaders listening who want to work with you?
So first of all, I just to your specific audience, what I want to say is that this before and after, being able to create a marriage that you want is all about you looking at your before and your after, who you are now. There's nothing wrong with who you are now. And it's okay to want to become the person you want to be. Right. Yes. So being grateful for who you are now and all those strengths and not beating yourself up for past decisions, past mistakes, past divorces. I did that for years. It doesn't help or serve yourself, but taking that, what did I learn and who have I become? And how do I apply that to be the version of me that attracts the person in my life that I want? Yeah. All of that to say, I took all of my experiences from my divorce and that relationship with my first husband and building a relationship with my second husband and how I maintain my relationship with my son. All of those skills now apply into what I do now, which is help school leaders navigate the mental and emotional demands of the job.
Oh, so good.
Because I had to manage my mental and emotional demands on myself through those divorces, what I made it mean about myself, what I made it mean about him and marriage in general. And what I teach my clients is it's coming back to trusting yourself, learning to trust other people, and the process. I call it the trust triad, right? There's 3 things you have to trust to be a good school leader: yourself, you have to really learn to trust others, and the process. And when you can map that out, life feels so much more aligned and grounded and centered.
Oh, that's amazing. That is so, so magical. And if someone wants to reach out to you, could you just tell them where to reach you? Just spell it out. And of course, it will all be in the show notes. But for anyone who wants to go there, hopefully we're not while driving.
No, don't text and drive.
While you're taking a walk.
Yes, but I will ask this. The one ask I have is, most of you listening, if you have maybe you have kids, or maybe you know someone who has kids, or you know somebody who's in education, I would really appreciate you sharing my podcast. The Empowered Principal podcast is for school leaders. And if you know your principal, your son or daughter's principal, or you have a teacher friend who could benefit or who's aspiring to be a leader, just getting the word out to them, because what I do is, I think I'm the only one on the planet doing it. So getting the word out to let every school leader know that there is help available and that we can just take years of stress and just all that fatigue off of their plates so much faster. They don't have to do it on their own, because I did it on my own and I don't want people to suffer in the same way. So with that said, you can find me at angelakellycoaching.com. That's my website. You can find me on Facebook, Angela Kelly Coaching. You can find me on Instagram, Angela A. Kelly Coaching, I think it is. on LinkedIn. I do have a Facebook group for school leaders. It's free. Anybody can join if they are a school leader. So send them that way onto Facebook. I'm everywhere. So if you need me, just look me up on social media or the Empowered Principal podcast.
Yes. And what a great, position that we are. Cause I'm like, when you said that, I was like, wait, yeah, I have our high school has a principal and 4 assistant principals. I'm like, yeah, therefore for sure they need to work with Angela.
Yes, absolutely.
Stuff goes down and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. So. I mean, if you direct them to, most of my people come through the podcast because they listen to the podcast, they love the content value and they apply it and they already feel like they know me and trust me. And then they're ready to make the call and we click and we're going for it.
Yes.
So,
and I know there's a ton of moms listening to this and some dads listen to this podcast too.
Yes,
so
good. As they should.
Send it to your school principal. Just say, hey, I thought you might enjoy this podcast. Here's a link, just a 1-line email. Let's get it to all the principals that we know so that they can benefit for just so much wisdom and growth and your coaching expertise, just to elevate our schools.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Angela. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's so good to see your face. I miss you.
I know. I miss you too. All right, listeners. Thank you so much for your time and attention today.
Thanks for having me, Sade.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to shadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.